Well, many years ago, when butterflies kind of found themselves overreacting or stuck in a corner, they'd invariably get that text message from me that says, "Hi, this is Mark, your emotional meltdown recovery specialist. Please state the nature of your crisis." And invariably, something go, "Did we take ourselves too seriously?" Could be. Yep, could be, Doc. Yeah, but it really did kind of get people, just kind of slow down and take a look at these things. One of the things that I've been it's been kind of watching the drama, and I've noticed that that a lot of it is speaking lies and hate. I mean, there's just such hatred and just such vitriol. Not to mention just the ghastly untruth, as opposed to speaking the truth in love. That kind of makes me wonder. I keep hearing from member of the TS community says this got to stop. You know, well, may I defer to Dean Moody? Everybody in the TS community knows Dr. Mooney. And may I defer to the Turner Syndrome Canada Handbook regarding disputes. And they say, how do you handle disputes? Head on. That's just you don't run away. Yet sometimes you just have to kind of swallow your pride and say, I can't deal with this anymore. I'm powerless. I'm done. And then this may be a little cutesy pie, but I remember I grew up in one of the first schools for learning disabilities. And it was just an awareness was of it in the early 70s came by. It was one of the schools that was part of the Summerhill model. And if we had a major dispute, we after lunch we would have the after lunch meetings, which we could go ahead and bring up our concerns if something was bothering us, and then we could talk about them, and then each party had a chance to share their concern. The teachers would referee, obviously, as teachers. They're going to mention have the final say. But the really good thing about it, though, as I remember, is that there's a lot of empowerment. We were able to express our thoughts and feelings, and then we were able to see where the other side was coming from. We were able to walk in their shoes and go, "Oh, I wasn't aware of that. Oh, I didn't know about that." I mean, one keeps one-sided. It just really creates a lot of friction and a lot of drama. And well, here we are. So little house cleaning. Yeah, I've heard the drama, and Michelle watched one of our favorite butterflies, and I said, "Well, if there's anything we need to know about, you let me know." I said, "Okay." So she checked it out, and I'm like, "Okay." I mean, I guess all I can say is that they want to make a convincing argument that the sky is green with pink polka dots is not thoroughly convincing. So, but I think so. Somebody else last night brought up a really good question, and I think that not that I'm going to defend myself per se, but to just share my side of the story. If people don't want to listen, they don't want to hear, and they want to still be part of the Flat Earth Society and the green sky with polka dots school. Hey, there's not much we can do about it. But sometimes hearing the other side, though, and just that way one can definitely process the information. And I know that one party's going to feel really humiliated. That's not my intention. I would say right off the bat, come forward. In your faith tradition, and you know what you need to do. Just do it. Also, maybe we can go through a go-between. But I think there were a lot of people though asked me last night, Mark, what's this about the stalking? And we want to hear your side of the story. So, okay. I hope to be matter-of-factly. I hope to be, just just passionate and give just the fact that do the best of my knowledge. So, first off, I just as far as who is Johnny Mac, I don't know the person, but I could side with the other butterflies wanting to protect themselves. And I don't know the person, but certainly under those circumstances, that does kind of look a little creepy. Yeah, okay. I could I would certainly side with the other sisters in that. I don't know who the person is, but I wouldn't blame them. But I think there are 3 stories I think that need some thrashing out, and then I think there's also one. Butterfly's has made some serious accusations. I want to really go ahead and just share the genesis of that one. The first one, though, that seems to be getting bounced around is that I followed a sister to St. Louis. And then the sister wants to, when confronted, wants to run and hide, and wants to try to make up stories. Well, I'm just going to tell you the truth. Obviously, she knew that I was going to be in St. Louis at the same time. She also knew that I was going to be at the Chasing Butterflies walk, and she also knew that I was going to be at St. Louis Cardinals game. Okay, we were pretty chummy, and I was new to working with the Turner syndrome community. There were a lot of hard lessons I had to learn, and one of them is butterflies don't like surprises. And in my naivete, I said, the sister and I are going in the same direction. It might be great to have some time of fellowship. That was all it was. That was all it was. I just want to enjoy the time. Well, obviously, it backfired. And to be accountable, as soon as I knew that sister was uncomfortable, I immediately backed off. I got a hold of my wife. I told her, get a hold of people in the church. We got a problem. And at the time, I was really, for the safety of that butterfly, because I do believe in emotional safety, that I was debating whether to cut the trip short and then return early. I was just going to go for one day, catch the St. Louis Cardinals game, and then just go home early, because I knew that this particular sister was upset and shocked. And to add insult to injury, it was communicated that she and her brother and sister-in-law were going to go to the Saturday night game. Well, quite innocently, they said, "Hey, you want to go to the game tonight?" "Yeah, sure." Okay. And how would they know that I would go on to Ticketmaster back in July, and it just as happenstance would have it, I went in and ordered tickets in a certain section, and then later found out, and the sisters paid, that we were actually one section apart. So that kind of made for a very anxious sister. Now, I was just ready to go, to go back to Columbus, and instead, she did in fact text me the next morning and said, "Mark, I'm sorry. Will you please forgive me? Yes, you can come out to the Turner Syndrome charity walk." Okay, sure, I'd love to. And I did, and I had a blast, and I also talked with people who had interest in learning disabilities, and that's which is my main focus. And in fact, where I picked up the TS Canada handbook, and just had a really a great time. She did too, and also just had the fellowship with her sister-in-law, which is a great gal, and just had a good time. It was she did panic, and she did block me, and obviously I felt a lot of shame and a lot of guilt about it. But and I did leave the church where we were attending for about 3 weeks, and as it turns out, the Tia sister's mom, uh, sent me a letter and said, "Hey, please come back to church. This is kind of the situation that the sister's going on." So I was invited and encouraged to come back to church. The sister and I made amends, and I said, let's stay accountable, and I gave her some information on boundaries, and she was really getting good, and I was really pleased with her at the time. Also at the time, the church was immediately involved. We didn't have a pastor at the time, but I did immediately bring it to the to the board of deacons at the time, just let them know what was going on, because I returned back to Columbus on Saturday night, went back to church on Sunday morning, let them know, and said, "Okay, Mark, thanks for bringing it to your attention. Yeah, obviously, it sounds like there was an accident. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of it." And so that's it. So obviously, if the other sister is saying that I stalked her and followed her to St. Louis, and that's unfortunate, I regret to say, is bearing false witness, or it's a premeditated lie. So that takes care of the St. Louis incident. The other one was supposed stalking her at another church. Now, I don't want to rub the church's face in it, and I think it's really made a lot of real bad, taste in their mouth. And I will say though that in recent years, people have come forward to me and have given stellar references of the pastor. Because this is kind of leaving a bad taste, I'm going to go ahead, with all due respect, and just fictionalize the name of the church, and we're just going to call it Windsor Heights Memorial. Now, in our Christian tradition, telling lies, running away from a conflict is a very serious offense. So naturally, they working for an evangelical church. I naturally went to the pastor to express my concern. My impression is that I think they were unduly influenced by the TS sister and her mom. That I think his ability to effectively pastor and to counsel and to provide was particularly clouded, so that he was only seeing a one-sided view of it. And typical narcissistic abuse, they're going to try to make the other person look like a victim, and they can do a looking sweet and innocent, and at the same time, and also throwing their weight, so as part of that behavior to kind of keep things one-sided. Now, I had some communications with the pastor, and the pastor did say they're not members of that church, which is a little odd. And I don't, they said at one point he was giving conflicting information, and figured, okay, well, they're not members of the church. It sounds like a good church. Okay, therefore the coast is clear. All right, fine. So Michelle and I decided to go ahead and just check it out. because obviously we were without a church home at the time. Well, so you can imagine the absolute horror when I and my wife saw Judy and Juliana Heidelberg at Winter Heights Memorial Church. Also, so again, the truth of the matter is, I was just going there to visit. Now, at the time, I obviously I asked somebody, one of the ushers, where's the men's room? And so just down the hall, and just a second, just last door on the left. Okay. Evidently, Judy saw me and then understandably freaked out, and as a result, had a seizure. I think had the pastor been truthful, that never would have happened. So that's what happened. That's what happened there. The church had the church been up front with me, and of course I wouldn't even think of going. Again, though, however, I do want to, but we don't know why they're no longer with the church. Now, obviously, if one is an evangelical church, there are certain bylaws and covenants and upstanding moral values that you're going to put in an evangelical church. So yes, I did bring to the church the district superintendent and the minister of discipline. The tie-ins between the bullying, the death threats, and was able to tie it back to the person who started it. Now, I don't know why they left the church, but at this point, they are on. At this point, given those situations, certainly if I were a pastor, I would not exactly be in a position that I would want to go ahead and to hire them. Or let them to be on staff, just as much as if Pete Rose is involved in gambling. It's just one line of work. In Major League Baseball, if you're gambling, and also just as much that if I'm in radio and I use certain words on the air, I'm going to be out of a job. That is just the nature of the business. So that's now the last incident though was rumors are circulating that once again I stalked another church, and I think that just requires an explanation. First, we'll just call the church Central Baptist. Okay, and again, I love the church. The church and I have a stellar relationship. I think the world of the pastor. I understand his reluctance to get in the midst of the conflict, and I respect it. There are very, given the history of the church, there's very sound reasons for it. Now, a lot of evangelicals are going to disagree, but in my heart of hearts, I'm fine with it. But I think here's some that before everybody goes hog wild on it. What had happened is the pastor knew that I was looking for another church home. Knew it had been at Central Baptist, and said, "Hey," and they were having a men's breakfast. I said, "Could I come?" "Absolutely, sure. We'd love to have you." But unbeknownst, and at the same time, just by random pragmatic coincidence, another man in the church was wanting to invite the Heidelbergs back to worship. And apparently, I guess their relationship with Winter Heights Memorial evidently, I guess, didn't work out. I think it's just, and I think that's just fair, and we'll let it go at that. So when I walked in and saw Mr. Heidelberg, and again that was just pragmatic coincidence. There was nothing confrontational. Actually, I was very gracious. I just sat and ate with the men, um, and then also helped clean up. And I actually picked up Mr. Heidelberg's plate and in coffee as in his coffee cup as I'm always want to do. And he, of his own volition, just decided to leave. Again, the church has the Central Baptist has full documentation of both sides of the story, and my understanding is that the Heidelbergs have not returned. So okay, so of their own own volition. I mean, obviously, if they had, then obviously disciplinary actions would have kicked in. But rather than humbly facing the music and looking for reconciliation or restoration, they ran. Yeah, and that's certainly their that's certainly their prerogative. So I'm just going to. So the last rumor I really want to go ahead and just straighten out is the accusations of preaching at Turner syndrome conferences, molesting children, uh, and following people home. Um, in the early days in the Turner syndrome community, because of my enthusiasm, my naivete, I came up with some great ideas, and one of them was that after an evening at the TS conference, since being an open air preacher, I figured I'd go over to Fountain Square in Cincinnati because that's where the conference was being held. That didn't go over too well. Okay, understandably, I had some other ideas, and it was just like, uh-uh. Mark, we love you, but it ain't gonna work. It's just okay. And so okay, that was a dumb idea. It's just, but somehow, for some reason, it kind of stuck in Judy for some reason. And in the fall of 2017, also keep in mind that Judy and I had parted ways by June of 2016. We'd gone our separate ways. I was very much moved to be part of the Turner syndrome community, to learn, to support, to minister, and just to listen. But then Judy was long out of the picture. And the only time I think I texted her or emailed was maybe as a result of it. I think there's some questions I had on the Turner Syndrome Society, just some TS business. But other than that, we went our separate ways. Now, in the fall of 2017, right out of the blue, I did get a very disturbing text message, and I think that I was going to molest children preach at conferences from Judy, and obviously she was highly agitated. And I know at the time that I and other butterflies said, what's wrong? I offered to say, can we talk about it? And then other butterflies I know had said, hey, what's going on? What can we do? And two things happened. One, Judy bolted, and then Juliana at that point, her mom started to be just really resentful. And I really think that a lot of and then she was also deeply resentful of my support of other women. She was resentful at the time that I was ministering to other women when we lost a Turner syndrome sister in December of December 2018. And instead of just coming to me, was just really resentful. And then Judy was freaking out. And then in our Christian tradition, if we have a dispute with somebody, we go to that person alone. If we can't resolve it, then we go get witnesses to try to resolve it. If that doesn't work, then the church gets in to mediate. And well, unfortunately, that was short circuited, and today this is where we are with the And for some reason, they turned around and decided, to go on a slandering campaign of saying that I was doing these things and stalking. And obviously, if we look at the evidence, I'm sorry, they're flat out lies. Yeah. So anyway, that's my side of the story. I'm just leaning my side of the street, and I would. I know that I've dug holes like these too, where I've lied and ran and attacked, and eventually the insanity became too much, where I just finally just had to give up and come clean. And in a situation like this, you know, that's just really, from a mental health standpoint, that's just the best thing to do, is just come as you are and come clean. Now I can't make that person. I can say, though, if the person doesn't, then they're probably going to receive some pretty increasingly horrid consequences. And that's the making of our own conscience. I don't have to do anything actionable. I know the sister too now. I will say this, though. If that sister ever wants to come forward, she's got full amnesty. I'm not going to critique her. I'm not going to judge her. I'm not going to say I told you so. No. Just what happened and what can we do to help. So I know people want to kick and scream, but again, you're only as sick as your secrets. So tell the truth and tell it faster. And that's certainly my prayer, that we can go from speaking the lies and hate to speaking the truth in love. Now, those are my thoughts and feelings. This is Mark, your emotional meltdown recovery specialist. And please state the nature of your crisis.